Leanne Haley-Burton, intuitive consultant here, keeping it real for spirituality. So I've got a question for you. Why do some psychics tell people exactly what they want to hear, whether it's the truth or not? Well, I've got 3 reasons that I can think of. One of them is that maybe the reader in particular is misled or is misguided, and maybe they believe that what they're saying to them is truth, even if maybe it isn't. The second reason is that maybe they are out and out con artists, and they have learned how to play the game, and they know how to feed back to a customer what they believe they want to hear, because A, it beats working for a living, and B, it beats getting into hassle with the customer. And also they know that if you're going to tell people what they want to hear, they're more likely to come back to you quickly, because they want to hear more of what they want to hear. Now, quite often with people who really like hearing what they want to hear, it doesn't really matter to them if a bit further down the line it becomes very clear that what the psychic has been promising them isn't actually unfolding or coming to pass. It doesn't really matter, because for a while they felt better. So it's a psychological and emotional thing. I mean, it's not what the work is about, but it is often used in that way. Now, some people will not go back to somebody that they believe has just told them what they want to hear, but others will keep going back to that person because they're getting a kind of hit off them, So again, it's not great, it's not ideal. And the third reason that a psychic may tell a customer what they feel they want to hear is to protect themselves. So having been dragged over the coals on the internet several times throughout my life, excuse me, I got an itchy nose for some reason today, tickly nose. Having been dragged over the coals on the internet many times, not for a while that I know of anyway, but then again, I don't go looking. I know that it must be hard for some people to take. Now, I've grown a thicker skin over the years. I've been doing this for 28 years. It did used to upset me, it did used to bother me, but this is, I've worked on my delivery, because you can't just say things willy-nilly. You can't just chuck it out there and say to somebody, well, you can't handle the truth. I've seen readers do that, and no, that's not good enough. That's ridiculous. But so you've got to be aware of your delivery. You've got to, be mindful, but you've got a duty to be as honest as you can whilst being as respectful as you can. And so therefore I say to myself, well, look, I'm delivering service in the best way possible. I'm aware of my delivery. I'm trying to be comprehensive here, and I'm trying to give, if you do A will happen, if you do B will happen. So therefore, if it's going to happen that I'm going to end up having an angry email or being dragged over the coals, and so be it, there's nothing I can do about it. But there are people who fear it, and they might suspect that particular customer could potentially be the type to get very upset, or to come back at them, or to hold them to ransom with it. So they will then take the easier way out and kind of, sugarcoat things, or feed back to them what they think they want to hear. Now, it's not ideal, but I kind of understand why they do it. It's not, no, I don't agree with it. See, the nature of this work, as I say on my website, is really only about insight and information. But, there's been a growing change in customer demand for the type of service that they want over this last few years. And so more and more people are looking to be validated or to be reassured. And I do understand that. I do understand it. But intuitive consultations are not an emotional painkiller. They're there to provide insight and information. And there are people who use the service periodically. Now, it might be for business. They might have a couple of questions. They've made some decisions, but they kind of want to run it by the reader and then see what their take on it is, what their interpretation is. So there are people who will use it, I would say quite wisely. There are people who, a lot of times people are very emotionally charged when they decide to have an intuitive consultation or a psychic reading or fortune telling. And so they might be in a bit of a raw place. Now, I think the good thing is with them having an actual recording of the entire consultation, even if at the time they receive it, they don't like it or they get angry with it because it's not what they want to hear. If they just keep it and then refer back to it further down the line or periodically, they'll be in a different place. They'll be in a better place to hear what is being said. Now, I know that's true because literally hundreds and hundreds of customers have told me that throughout the years. And so I know that's how it works. So it's not always going to be an instant gratification thing. But this telling people what they want to hear is big business. You know, since the internet has become available to virtually everybody in the world, and since most people in the world can have some kind of a psychic reading or a new intuitive consultation anytime, 24 hours a day, anywhere in the world, then, you know, there is this, it kind of can become a bit like, you know, a fast food industry. The minute we've got a need or a fear, we need to feed that. We need to reassure it. We need to settle it down. And so, you know, when people make an accusation against mediums or, you know, consultants, readers, oh, you're preying on the vulnerable. Well, it's a very unpleasant accusation. However, in some cases, it is true. In some cases, it is true. And I've already, you know, made videos and audio recordings on the subject of, you know, of this work and of, you know, being aware of becoming addicted to psychic readings. You know, I warn against it. But, you know, there are many different ways to prey on the vulnerable. I have another YouTube channel, which is fairly new, but it's connected to my independent publishing business, if you want to call it that, career. Under indie author Leanne. I think that's what it's called. And, you know, for example, YouTube is awash, an absolute awash with so-called experts and gurus on the subject of Kindle Direct Publishing, where self-published authors will upload their work for publication on Amazon. And now all of a sudden it's become popular, and there are literally hundreds and hundreds of them jumping on the bandwagon, encouraging people to mass upload low content books like notebooks and diaries. And that is a form of preying on the vulnerable, because the people who, largely speaking, the people who are watching these videos, and we know from the comments that are left, these are people who are desperate to find a way of making either a good living or an easy living. And they've been promised that they can make thousands and thousands, and it is not true. It isn't true at all. So I know it's not the same as the psychic industry. I'm just explaining there are many different ways in which people out there prey on the vulnerable. And so, you know, I like to say, look, people have a brain in their head and they get to choose what they do with their time and their money. So it isn't my responsibility if somebody comes to me for an intuitive consultation or, you know, for a mediumistic consultation. However, I do have a duty of care as well to that person, as well as to myself. And so as you have to be, you know, you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful of your delivery. You have to be mindful of what you can feel about that person. Where are they at? What can they tolerate? What can they take? You know, how can you help them in the best way? So you're providing predictions and insight and food for thought, but you've got to think it through with each individual customer. You can't just throw it out there. So, you know, there are readers out there who are mindful and are aware of their duty of care. But there are a lot out there who couldn't give a fig. They just want your money. You know, they want to tell you what you want to hear. They want you gone, but they want you to come back and spend some more money. And that is what is one of the most sickening things about this industry. Or when I say this industry, actually, it's not about this industry, because the industry that I'm in, the intuitive consultations business is not that business. It's a separate business entirely. And I do not want to be tarred with that brush. And I will not be tarred with that brush. Well, if somebody's going to tar me with that brush, there's not much I can do about it. But, you know, it is a separate industry altogether. So, yeah. So it is very real that, unfortunately, when you're out there and you're purchasing from somebody you don't know, you know, you've not used their services before, they don't have a proven track record. You haven't had enough time to see if what they've said to you ends up making sense, if it ends up being useful to you. So you're just going in there blind, and you're taking a risk. That's fine. We have to take risks in this world. But, you know, as we get to understand a consultant or a reader, we'll either say, you know what, I'll go back to them again. Because even if I wasn't keen on what they told me at the time, actually it made a lot of sense. I will go back to them again with this issue or this question. Or we may say, you know what, no, I don't want to use them again. Somebody once called me a Marmite reader, which really made me laugh, meaning people either love me or hate me. That is just the way it is, but I'd rather that than people be indifferent. So, yeah, so really that's answered the question, isn't it? Why do, and I will say psychics, I'm not going to say intuitive consultants, because I would hope that they would be more understanding, or not be more understanding, that they would recognize that, you know, being an intuitive consultant, even though you're offering predictions, you know, you're the same as a fortune teller or a psychic would, you're also rather like an intuitive life coach. So I would hope not to see that with an intuitive consultant. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and somebody might use that title seeing it's quite fancy when in actual fact they're not delivering that service. I don't know. As it is with everything in this world, there's no guarantees of anything, is there? But I've got to tell you one quick story, which is funny. And I did this, and it was many years ago when I used to work on eBay, and thank goodness those days have gone. So yeah, I used to, like a lot of people did years ago, I used to provide consultations on eBay, and you got to type them in, type. It was hard work because you can't express everything that you're feeling and you're seeing. You can't explain it all through the typed, you know, email. And it will take such a long time. And you just can't get the essence across the way you can when it's recorded. I have no idea why in those days I didn't think about recording them and sending them on audio files. Maybe I was a lot less tech savvy then than I am now. I'm not totally tech savvy, but I know more than I did. But anyway, so I was on eBay. And I was going through this phase of getting frustrated with people just wanting to hear what they wanted to hear. You know, that the guy that's been blocking them on Facebook for the last 6 months is actually suddenly going to change and turn up on their doorstep and marry them. You know, this kind of stuff. So I thought I was being very smart and very clever, didn't I? When I created a listing called that tell you anything you want to hear listing. And I only charged 99p for it because you had to charge something. But I was being a bit rebellious. It was a joke. Oh, but then somebody went and purchased it. Oh, yes, a lady went and bought one. And I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So I had to follow through, didn't I? I had to tell her what I thought she wanted to hear. So I was aware of certain things, but I really sugar-coated them. And she loved it so much, she bought another one. I should do the same thing again. And then she loved it so much, she bought another one. By that point, I had to come clean. Well, I didn't admit to her what I'd done, but I was a lot more straightforward with the third one, and I never heard from her again. So that's nothing to be proud of, I know. You see, yeah, I thought I was being funny, but I wasn't. You know, it came back and bit me on the backside, didn't it? Yeah, anyway, so there you go. So if you are of the habit of going to have a consultation or a reading, and you find that the person in question is, you know that they're telling you what you want to hear, you recognize it. You either recognize it because it is just so obvious, or there's something within you says, oh, this is what I want to hear, but it's not ringing true with me at all. Then, you know, you'll know that either the reader in question is well-meaning and thinks that maybe that's how it's going to be, or they're conning you out and out, or they're terrified of you getting upset and dragging them over the coals on the internet. So, but then of course you get to decide whether or not you're going to go back to that person in the future. So there you go then. Look, if you've enjoyed this video or you found anything useful in it, please like and please subscribe if you want to hear more videos, you know, or see more videos really than hear more videos. I am going to make more. I was neglecting the channel, but I have already added a few to it. But it really does help if viewers subscribe, you know. So don't forget to press that subscribe button unless you've actually absolutely hated it, of course, in which case you won't. Okie dokie. See you later. Bye.